Okay, my favorite flowers are the late bloomers. So my fuchsia is a June bride, and I was gazing at it, and it's full of blossoms, and there's more to come. Like it hasn't even got, it's like, I haven't even gotten started. And then another one is a forget-me-not that will it'll do its first push. It's one of the first ones to bloom in the growing season, early in the spring. And well, you know what that means? It means that sometimes there's enough time in the season, or there's a temperature drop, or an increase in this and a decrease in that, just at the right time, that it simulates enough of spring-like conditions that you can get 2 flushes. So you get like a late forget-me-not bloom. I just gave myself a haircut, and it just probably shouldn't be doing that when it's... Anyway, okay, so I love the late bloomers because I'm kind of... And early August isn't late in the growing season, but it's late for spring flowers, and a lot of my favorite like wildflowers and the annuals and things like that will bloom early, and then like later in the season when we get into midsummer, then it's really, the plant's really thinking about food. The springtime in my mind is like just this exciting time of daffodil blossoms and forget-me-nots, and lilacs are an early spring bloom, and those are like, our heart just pounds. Like you get the butterfly or like that hummingbird heartbeat feeling when you first meet somebody, or I think I made a mention of something of the way truth can sometimes feel when you first sink your teeth into it. Kind of the way you can smile with your tongue. So these late blooms are just delicious, because the first blooms are kind of everywhere, and it's one after the other. First it's lilacs and daffodils and forget-me-nots, and then it's a lot of your peonies and your bulbing flowers that take a while, and it's just a show. Like those first blossoms, those first flowers of the growing season are like, I don't know, I guess if you're going to the symphony, there's that wind up, or the intro, and then it goes and goes and goes. I don't know how much classical music y'all have listened to. Guys, stop battling. Prudence is defending her tree fort. Sorry, Blue. Okay, so we're talking about flowers and symphonies. I'm so weird. The first blossoms of spring are like this intro of what's to come, and we just have to get real comfy and enjoy the show. But my favorite thing about late blossoms, well, everything else is kind of worried about fruiting, and I love food flowers. So bean flowers, I think, are some of the most gorgeous flowers around. Pea flowers, and I'm not even talking about sweet pea, ornamental sweet peas. Prudence, you didn't have to rub it in. Like, he made the choice to walk away. Okay. And squash flowers. I love the food flowers. I really do. But they're different. They're not just there for show. I grow delphiniums just because I worship. They make me feel something real. That was one of the first plants I ever grew, was a delphinium, when Grandma took us to a nursery when we were little. So, some things are just precious and sacred because they are pretty, or because they mean something. And flowers speak to us in language that's not like anything else. there are entire schools of thought that base treatment of ailments in the human body and spirit. So they found that link or that twist, and it's flowers. It's the language of flowers. And in Victorian times, and I think even, just before that, flowers were literally a language. So men and women would exchange bouquets, and you could hide a rosebud of a different color inside of a bouquet of one color. Things like this, because flowers speak a language, and they mean different things. So the last blossoms, or like the late bloomers, are there when everybody else is like being a busy bee, worrying about production and food, being real resourceful. And those late bloomers are there to make sure that there's still frivolousness, and there's still flowers, and there's still color for no good reason other than the best reason. Just because. The best reason for flowers is just because. And I can attest to this as a late bloomer, that it's so cool. It can be lonely, but while everybody else has already processed the story or the joke, I'm usually showing up late because I was at home weaving something and not paying attention. So I inevitably show up late to the party, and I get the punchline of the story really late. And it can be lonely to be like that annoying, cackling, snot giggling, tear streaming. Everybody else has already processed the joke. And I'm the one in the corner laughing my ass off. And I'm the only one. And to some people that, feels really annoying. But I mean, to me, at least there's laughter. And even if it's an Ouroboros laughter and it's my own, and I'm feeding myself with that, that's enough. I have to have flowers. I have to have frivolousness. I have to have color just because of color. I have to have, and we don't tell the strawberry plant in the terracotta pot and the gravel pile that is bone dry that they're a narcissist for thinking that it's raining for them when it finally rains. We don't call that strawberry plant a narcissist. We encourage that. Yes, please. Yes, like, it rained for you. Drink up. Be well. So, I mean, squash flowers and delphinium blossoms speak a more welcoming message of belonging to me than the honeybees, Bob the Builder's filling space around me. Like, it can feel lonely, but we have to remember that that the moon does all these different things. So in my experience, the moon is hungry and voracious and can be kind of forceful when she's in her light. And when the moon starts to shift into her dark phase, we have to contemplate, like, she's still doing the moon thing, but in a different way. So while she's asking us to feed her when she's full, we're releasing. And when she's asking us to kind of leave her alone when she's dark, It's freedom. She's letting us go play. It's not a rejection. It's an opportunity. Mamas and daddies make babies not so that they can build an empire and own more. Whether it's a plant or a possum or a people, we procreate, we create to learn from our inventions, from our creations. And I don't learn in straight lines. And I'm finding that I don't even create or weave, or it's not a web that I'm making. I'm going in with a hammer, and what I do is I let myself into a china shop and I break everything in whatever order feels good. And then when everything's broken, I turn on the lights, I put down the hammer, and I read in the fragments the lesson. So for what it's worth, I think I'm touching that. I'm getting in touch with how I work, how I do learn. And, I'm learning that the death realms and spiders and shadows, I am that. I am the Harry Potter Death Eater. So it doesn't scare me. And that's something that I have thought for a long time was what made me bad, or was what needed to be exterminated for a really long time. But I mean, smashing everything up in order to learn, it's like reading tea leaves or something. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but there's another side to that coin. What you're doing doesn't make a lot of sense to some people. So, when I knit, I rarely use a pattern. And just within the last couple years, I think it's been a puzzle that I've shelved and just worked on subconsciously. And I've started to go back through some of my projects, and I'm re-engineering, or I go back and I look at something that's already done that I've just done based on feel. And I don't really give gifts that often, because you weave into what you're making your intention. And if you're not in a place where you really know what your intention is, if you're the kind of person that creates to learn from the experience, you probably shouldn't give that away. You don't really know what's in it until you've studied it. So I kind of reverse engineer, and I think in numbers, which is not something that I cannot do. It doesn't work in a practical sense. I can't. I struggle with making sense of numbers. I can make nonsense of numbers. So I can turn this into poetry by looking at how many rows of each color are where, and what they're next to, what those numbers mean, what it means in the grand scheme of all of the things, That's okay. Learning top bottom isn't fucked up or wrong or backwards. It's just what you do. It's how you do. You're a late bloomer. You don't bloom in the spring. You're the forget-me-not that came from that first forget-me-not seed that fell, and you're the second flush. And you're a Death Eater, sweetheart. And the muck and the poo and the nutritious decomposed matter of the forest is what feeds you. You are an eater of death. And this is why. This is why you learn by smashing. So learn how to fall properly. Learn how to smash properly. And stop saying that learning top bottom is fucked up and wrong, because it's different. Throw away all the books. Burn them, baby.